Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and slowly get started with some of our introductory materials while people continue to trickle in, since we have a packed agenda today and want to make sure that we have enough time to cover everything. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the CHW Sustainability Summit informational session. Round 2. This meeting will have simultaneous Spanish interpretation. As a participant, you will need to choose a language, either English or Spanish, to listen to in the Zoom. So if you navigate to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a globe icon that says interpretation. And if you click that, you can access the Spanish room. This Zoom will have automated closed captioning. Closed captioning can be turned on or off throughout today's meeting. To manage closed captioning on your computer or laptop, click the CC Live Transcript. Select Show or Hide Subtitle to view captions. You can also select View Full Transcript to see the entire written transcript from today's meeting. To manage closed captioning on your mobile device, go to your Zoom controls and click Meeting Settings. You can then use the toggle button to turn on and off closed captioning. So one more big hello and welcome to the CHW Sustainability Summit information session. The Envision team is excited for today and grateful for the opportunity to once again be in community with you all, share this space, and have the opportunity to work together. This month's webinar will provide important context and information about the upcoming Sustainability Summit, which will be happening in Spokane in April of this year. This is a chance to celebrate the work that we've all been doing as part of the larger CCR grant network, as well as to look forward to what is next for the CHW workforce. My name is Yasmin Aftahi. I'm a CHW ally that has been serving as the Envision Resource Coordinator since 2022. I'm from California, but now living in Wisconsin, so coming to you from central Wisconsin. And I'm here today with my wonderful team to talk about sustainability and the Sustainability Summit that we are already so proud of. While on call today, we have a small list of operating agreements to ensure that we can collectively build a welcoming and brave space. Much of today's webinar will be content delivery, so we do ask that you stay on mute and post questions in the chat box. The chat will function as your primary point of connection. We encourage you to use it frequently and treat fellow attendees with dignity and respect while doing so. We will have a Q&A section at the end of today's webinar where you will be able to ask questions either via the chat or you could raise your hand to come off mute. And we will also compile the questions that we're unable to answer today into a frequently asked question sheet that will be available on the Envision website at a later time. And one more reminder to do what you need to take care of yourself today. If you haven't already accessed the Envision Resource Library, visited the Envision website, or signed up for My Envision, our community platform and live resource database, navigate with the links in the chat to join and plug into some of this amazing work and resources that Envision has put together over the past years. Our primary content today will include information about the upcoming CHW Sustainability Summit, some framing around sustainability, and an introduction of upcoming communities of practice, or what we will call COPs, throughout the rest of today. Again, at the end, we'll also have a Q&A portion. We have an incredible group of facilitators today from across the nation to share with you. We won't be doing a round-robin introduction now, but each facilitator will introduce themselves before they speak. So again, my name is Yasmin Aftahi, the Envision Resource Coordinator, and I will begin the presentation today by introducing a little bit about the Sustainability Summit. So Envision is hosting a CHW Sustainability Summit in Spokane, Washington in April of this year. This is not only an exciting opportunity for us to celebrate the great work that we've done during the course of the CCR, or CHW's for COVID Response and Resilient Communities grant, but also an opportunity to frame and explore sustainability as it relates to the values and identity of the CHW workforce. If we think about sustainability like a tree with many branches, we often talk about the financial aspect, but there are lots of pieces to the sustainability puzzle, and these are things that we want to explore at the summit and beyond. So I will now pass it to my colleagues Leslie and Sarah Elise to provide a high-level overview of the summit and provide some framework around sustainability.
Thanks, Yasmin. Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Wolf. I use she, her as my pronouns. I am a CHW ally, and I'm a community organizer by trade and heart, and also an Envision co-director based at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Population Health Institute. I have nearly 20 years of experience working with communities and have worked with over 120 coalitions, building leadership capacity to advance health equity through policy and structural changes. And through that time, what I know to be true is what we all know to be true is that we need to be focusing on centering on those most impacted by inequities to be really leading community health improvement, to be leading this work. And that's true within the CHW workforce as well, right? To ensure that CHWs are really centered and leading. So I want to start by, if we want to advance the slide, please, I want to just start by talking about why we need a summit focused on CHW sustainability. Much of what's on the slide here will resonate with all of you, will feel very familiar. We know that CHWs play a crucial role in improving health equity, but they face vulnerability due to insufficient resources and support. And CHWs are oftentimes not leading the design of policies and programs that are directly related to the CHW workforce, resulting in fragmentation and retention issues, including pay inequities, which I'm sure is something that all of us can relate to. As we all know, financial sustainability is really challenging, and as Yasmin said, it's a part of sustainability. It's an important part, and it's really challenging, primarily due to short-term program funding and Medicaid limitations. So the summit is really a way to increase our collective understanding of how to identify and capitalize on current opportunities and inform and shape future opportunities to sustain the CHW workforce. I'm going to advance the slide, please. So for our summit, we have, we're using a symbol, a logo that you'll see throughout of this quilt. And the quilt is really a symbol for all of us, united to sustain CHWs, each piece representing all of our unique contributions, our diverse voices, backgrounds, and experiences woven together, creating a strong and interconnected community quilt. Quilts often tell stories through their patterns and designs, and likewise, it symbolizes the shared history, values, and aspirations of all of us working towards CHW sustainability. So at the summit, we'll really focus on advancing the CHW workforce sustainability movement with peer networking, connections, and relationship building opportunities. And that's really where we're going to come back to this a couple times. That's really where the magic happens, is in those peer-to-peer relationships. We will be building collective understanding of health and racial equity principles and practices, and we'll ensure dissemination of information, tools, and best practices. And over 3 days together, we'll explore the topics that are on the slide, all related to CHW leadership and ally support, sustainable funding approaches, using evaluation to support the CHW workforce sustainability and scalability, and aligning local and national efforts. Advance the slide, please. So Envision's approach to capacity building is really about relationships, right? And we do that through relationships, and that is central to CHW Sustainability Summit. like I said, right, that peer-to-peer connection, it's all about opportunities for relationship building. And this approach is really best illustrated in this model that you see on the slide. At the center is growing CHW power. And power, simply put, is the ability to act or the ability to do stuff. And the key to sustainability is about strengthening our power, our capacity to make stuff happen, our capacity to influence decision makers or be the decision makers, to shape narrative and determine resource allocation. These are all topics that we're going to focus in on at the summit. And this is really a cycle. So what you see around the triangle is a cycle. And you could really start anywhere. And it's about starting with what you know. Since CHW work is deeply relational, with insights to community concerns and priorities, you might start on the right of the triangle with an inventory of your current relationships and power. And then comes a power analysis, where you might use a tool like a power map, which is something that we are going to cover at the summit as well, to determine decision maker levers and then directly impact decision makers by developing relationships and aligning interests. Again, something that we'll have time to dig into in practice at the summit. Through a combination of data and community stories and relational meetings where you're really listening for what people care about and what issues they're focused on, you can then make a connection to find where your interests and their interests intersect. And this builds champions, leaders, and coalition around the effort. And again, something that we will explore further at the summit is that process and some of those best practices to make that happen. And then power is demonstrated by holding decision makers accountable through follow-ups, reviewing decision-making, and continuing to foster relationships to know what's coming. And once again, at the summit, we'll have some time to practice that practice of being in relationship with decision makers and holding decision makers accountable. And then you evaluate and reflect where things are at, how far things have moved, analyze growth in power, and continue to build relationships to grow power. And then you do it all over again because it's a cycle, right? So keep going round and round. So we'll get to practice all points of this cycle throughout our time in the summit. And advance the slide, please. If we zoom in on the orange triangle, defining partnerships of CHW leadership and allies is really crucial. It's essential to emphasize that without CHWs and CHW leadership, sustainability is really compromised. And so you can see this triangle, right, is really building to what it looks like to build sustainability with partnerships, with CHW leadership and ally partnerships. So this really underscores the significance of ensuring CHW leadership as a foundational building block or base of the pyramid for those partnerships between CHWs and allies. With CHW leadership and representation, that next layer, collaborative efforts can then be confidently established and agreements on decision-making processes can be created together. When addressing critical parameters such as CHW definition, so that next layer, or training standards and certifications, which are really necessary for most, if not all, financial sustainability sources, having CHWs at the table, or even better, constructing the table, ensures that these decisions are made by and for CHWs. And then this in turn, right at the top here, this in turn paves the way for the effective implementation of sustainability approaches that are both inclusive and reflective of the unique contributions and impact that CHWs have on community health. Okay, so after describing how essential CHW leadership is in partnership with allies, I want to turn it over to Mengxi to further define CHW.
Thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. My name is Mengxi Kang. I am a community health worker. I am the community health worker outreach and training coordinator for UW, University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute, also part of the Envision team. As you all know, the American Public Health Association worked alongside with community health workers to define the CHW workforce as frontline public health worker who is a trusted member of and or has an unusually close understanding of the community link between health and social services and the community to facilitate access to services and improve the quality and cultural competence of service delivery. So I think I'm aware that we are all familiar with this definition, but it's nice to have it. It's nice to have another reminder about essential, how essential CHWs are when it comes to social and health equity work. Next slide, please. Although APHA does have a definition of what CHW is, NACHWA, the National Association of Community Health Workers, has provided us a great example of how the CHW workforce actually looks like, right? So they have the 6 pillars of the CHW workforce. We're not going to go into the specifics of each one of them, but we're just going to highlight a few key points in this webinar today. So as you look, we could take it close. If you want to take a closer look at the 6 pillars, Caitlin will be dropping the link to NACHWA's website down below for you all to go and explore the 6 pillars. So community health workers are unique in community-based workforce, right? Because we are from the community that we work with. We experience the same barriers as our community, which provides us a better perspective of how to bring awareness and educate partners and organizations to improve their services, right? So we call that lived experience. We are a workforce that we value lived experience over education. We've been seeing cross trainings occurring, but that doesn't really value CHWs as who they really are, as a fact that they are people with lived experience who are going through the same experience as their communities. So if you want to be working with community health workers and you want to see the results in improving health in your community, really emphasizing and really focusing on lived experience is going to be the way for you to see results that you want to see. So with that being said, I would like to pass it on to Yasmin to talk about CHW allyship.
So for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to use the definition that you see here that's adapted from the Center for Creative Leadership. CHW allyship is the actions, behaviors, and practices one intentionally takes to support, amplify, and advocate with CHWs towards the sustainability of the CHW workforce. Please note that we say advocate with rather than advocate for, because advocacy is really done in partnership. Next slide, please. So the equity principle that you see here is really used to center the voices of CHWs and has guided the CHW movement. The phrase was born from the disability movement and is now utilized to center and elevate the voices of CHWs in the movement. And it's a great reminder for allies to involve CHWs from the get-go when making decisions about the workforce and beyond. It invites a moment of reflection to ensure CHW voices are represented and furthermore, steer the conversations and decisions about the workforce. Next slide, please. So what does allyship look like in practice? So we talked a little bit about how the CHWs are a unique workforce, and so you can think back to the 6 pillars that Mengshi shared. If you're not a CHW and want to support the work, you can be an ally. And so what does that look like? Educating yourself and owning your privilege with things like education and gender. A huge one is accepting and asking for feedback. Investing time on cultivating relationships one-to-one. So really hearing the stories of CHWs about their lived experience and connecting and really forming relationships from a place of listening and listening to understand, right? So a lot of those are, you know, sort of theoretical ways that we can show up, but in more of a practice, letting CHWs lead and get credit for shared work. So this could look like publishing that includes CHW authorship, Or if you're doing a shared presentation with CHWs, you can have CHWs do the presenting and being up on the stage in a more powerful leadership role. Also, championing workforce equity, partnering on policy work and policy change. So there is a need for CHW leadership even before fiscal strategies are implemented. Institutions partnering and engaging with CHWs to co-endorse policies is a really great example of allyship. And an example of this is the latest CHW APHA policy, which endorses CHWs as critical to advancing racial equity and violence prevention. And this was co-endorsed by CHWs, the policy itself. Also, there is an opportunity for allies to work together to advocate for the new Medicare ruling. And so we're going to learn more about what that looks like. But all these policies that are coming through, really working with CHWs to write the policies, to endorse the policies, to understand the policies. And also, if the policies aren't as equitable as we would like to see, working together to sort of bolster them to represent the workforce. Also, joining a state or a national association is a great way to get plugged in. So again, you can visit the National Association of Community Health Workers website. And also, Sherry dropped the link to the CHW self-determination policy that I mentioned in the chat, so you can explore what that looks like as well. Next slide, please. So what can this look like at the summit and beyond? So when it comes to allyship as a sustainability tool, we have an imperative and necessary role to uplift and center the voices of CHWs and to promote CHW leadership at all levels to really support and sustain the work in a manner that reflects the values and identity of the workforce as a whole. So I really want to repeat that allies are wanted and needed and serve a very important role for this workforce. At the summit, so CHW participation in your team looks like 50% CHWs. Sharing voices with CHWs, so again, if you're presenting your work, present alongside a CHW. Sharing your learnings. So 6 people can come to the summit, but that means that there's an opportunity to take everything that you've learned and bring it back to the community, teach it back, and continue that cycle. Beyond the summit, you can participate in ongoing reflection about implementing CHW allyship principles into your work moving forward, being intentional to include CHWs in the sustainability plans and strategy. And again, allyship is a sustainability tool. Continue supporting the sustainability of CHWs and continue aligning opportunities for better public health infrastructure. So we've talked a lot about allyship and how it relates to sustainability, but Sarah Elise is going to come on now and provide some more framing around what we mean when we say sustainability.
Hey there, thanks so much, Yasmin. So I'm Essie, my pronouns are she, hers. I'm a CHW and Envision's Community of Transformation Lead based at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Population Health Institute. So in the Community of Transformation, also known as COT, I provide training and technical assistance for communities that are working towards CHW sustainability using coalition building and power building strategies. Prior to Envision, I worked as a CHW, as a care coordinator and community organizer in rural Colorado. So you heard Mengshi and Yasmin talk about CHW and ally partnerships. What are CHWs and CHW allies going to be doing together at the summit? Working towards sustainability. And to get there, we're going to need a couple things, right? We need continuous revenue to support ongoing CHW employment and or programs. We need to embed or incorporate CHWs in existing institutions with appropriate CHW training, integrating CHW positions, and other systemic approaches. And to ensure long-lasting change, there needs to be the altering or enactment of rules, regulations, and policies. But it isn't just about policy and structural changes in order to sustain the workforce. It's about the kinds of policies and structures in place and ensuring that they are equitable. Which is why what needs to be driving these efforts, first and foremost, is what we talked about: community leadership prioritizing CHW leadership and ownership of CHW workforce sustainability. So in the community transformation and in the summit, we're really going to be emphasizing capacity and power building strategies that are utilized to advocate for changes in each respective community. So there are 4 main focus areas that we're really going to be going over and talking about and learning about during the summit. And all of these topics are going to be presented in workshops, small groups, large groups, keynote speakers, and for the entire summit, we're putting the spotlight on all of you, the recipients, CHW recipients, and we're going to invite you all to share about your work, to share in partnership, CHWs and allies alike, about the work you're doing in your communities. So the first one, CHW leadership and ally support, is really about learning about how to be able to identify as a CHW or CHW ally in the CHW movement to sustain the workforce, and to recognize the importance of CHW leadership in sustaining the workforce. The next topic is aligning local and national efforts. So this is really about being able to identify key equity and leadership practices to advance CHW workforce sustainability. We want you all to be able to see yourselves as advocates and leaders for advancing CHW workforce equity in your communities, and how local and national sustainability efforts really inform one another. You all will have opportunities to build relationships with one another, with other recipients, do some peer consulting and networking, both in formal spaces and informal spaces, to be able to see what you all are doing and learn from the wisdom and experience of one another. The next one, sustainable financing. So we're going to be talking about sustainable financing approaches and really help you all be able to communicate CHW sustainability goals and values clearly and consistently across multiple contexts, and to be able to execute equitable financial sustainability strategies specific to your context in your communities in this final year of CCR funding. We're going to have experts such as Carl Rush talking about Medicaid and Tim McNeil talking about the new Medicare rule. And we'll have plenty of resources available for all of you on the website, on the summit website beforehand, so you all can prepare during the summit and after the summit as well. Lastly, our other focus area, not biggest, but another one, is data. So we're really going to be talking about how to use evaluation to support CHW sustainability, and by doing that using data. We'll teach you all how to articulate the long-term impact of CHW work and the CCR funding for multiple audiences. So we'll have lots of opportunity to really see what it looks like, data in action, and be able to use that to educate decision makers and show what CHWs do. And with that, I'll pass it back to Leslie.
Thank you, Essie. All right. So as we mentioned earlier, peer-to-peer learning and engagement is central to how we are sharing knowledge and wisdom at the summit. And so this will include an informal networking and poster session where teams are encouraged to present on sustainability work. And we're going to provide an outline with questions and guidance, which I will get into in a minute. So we'll talk a bit more about this part of the summit. We are going to be inviting teams to present in communities of practice and workshops and breakout spaces to present on work alongside specific content areas. We will have team time, so time for you to get into the work with your team. So there's sort of this consecutive learning around workshop content or time to work through tools with support from technical assistance from Envision and other consultants. We will have an opportunity for peer-to-peer consulting. And you heard me talk about magic before, right? That peer-to-peer is really where the magic happens. This is like magic plus. So what happens here is teams are paired with another team to share sustainability work and receive feedback and learn from one another. This is something that we have done in the community of transformation. And this is just incredible, right? Because this is the opportunity for you all to really be spending some more intimate time on your work and being able to share. And this really leads to, I think, just expansive brainstorming and expansive ways of putting your work into practice. And then finally, we'll have opportunity for just social connection and space for self-care. That like casual connection time or potentially some topic focused connection time too, but where it's a little less structured. Okay, we're going to talk next about the team posters. So at the summit, all participants will have the opportunity to network with peers and learn more about other teams' work through a poster session. And the idea here is that we're asking everyone, all attendees, to prepare an informal poster. And within that informal poster, within that informal poster, we want you to really be using that as an opportunity to highlight your sustainability goals, highlight your sustainability work, talk about your accomplishments and challenges, and really it's an opportunity to be creative and add any information that might be pertinent for everyone. And so this is, I want to emphasize informal. So there's actually a couple examples here on the slide of some of the types of posters that we're talking about. And so it's really more about highlighting your work. It is, if you have a scientific poster and you want to repurpose it and contextualize it around your sustainability work, that is also welcome. So we're also trying to make this, not the heaviest of lifts for each team to be able to present. Most important is that you have some sort of visual to be able to talk about your work so that people can go around and connect with you. We will be doing these informal poster sessions 3 times during the summit. Each time it will be 45 minutes, and there will not be any there won't be any competing or structured activities alongside it. So it's really meant to be the opportunity to get to know one another more and get to know one another's work. So if you want to advance the slide, thank you. Now that we've described this incredible 3 days, we do want to talk about who can attend. The summit can accommodate up to 500 participants. Therefore, teams are limited to 6 people from each CCR 2109 recipient group or community. Excuse me. In accordance with the triangle we described earlier, at least half of each summit team should be CHWs. And it's really essential for team members to share a common focus on sustainability, encompassing decision makers or individuals with connection to decision makers. So really the idea is that these are folks that are committed to sustainability work, including CHWs. And of course, since we are talking about collaboration and partnership, subrecipients are included in the team of 6. So we know it can be challenging to select a team of 6 when so many people are involved in this great work. To help you determine which team members to send to the summit, the CCR 2109 Wisconsin team is here to share their process.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kimber. I am the person who is going from the Wisconsin team that's going to talk about our process. I am also a community health worker, and I work in a community health specialist role at Wisconsin DHS. Well, I guess to start off with, if you haven't heard through this info session so far, CHW leadership really is the foundation of moving CHW sustainability work forward. So when our team heard that Envision was like, hey, half the people coming need to be CHWs, our team was like really excited about that. And then we came to the realization that with all of the amazing CHW leaders that we have in Wisconsin and that we're working with through 2109, like we were going to have to pick 3, and that was going to be incredibly hard. And then second of all, we really wanted to make sure that this work went beyond CHW involvement in just the summit alone. what are we going to offer? What opportunities are we going to offer before the summit, as well as after the summit for these CHWs who are attending? So two pieces of that is one, we decided to develop a CHW sustainability leadership team, which is a mouthful, but super important. And then in order to decide who's going to be on that team, as well as who's going to be attending the summit, we came up with an application process for our CHWs to go to, or to do, I guess you would say. So that'll lead to the next slide where I'll walk through the application we came up with. So as you can see, we kind of did a little snapshot of the application and started off with providing like some information on the role and some context. And then we really broke it down throughout of the different opportunities that we were presenting. So first we did a table of like the time commitments and the travel that CHWs would be expected with this role. First of all, was participating in an in-person Envision technical assistance session on CHW leadership and CHW allyship, which Envision came and hosted last week and was fantastic. The other commitment was ongoing sustainability summit informational sessions like this one and community of practice meetings. Participating in the Envision Community of Transformation alongside our 2109 Wisconsin team. Those would be workshops and work meetings in between those workshops before and after the summit. And then attending the 2109 CHW Sustainability Summit. So this table could look different depending on what sort of sustainability work your organization is doing. We're also very transparent about the type of fiscal support the 2109 grant could provide for like travel and for time commitments. The other part of the application was we just had 3 questions. 2 of them really revolved around asking the applicants to describe any or all aspects of CHW leadership and sustainability work experience they had. We provided examples to get them started. So like attending conferences and trainings, like participating or facilitating in regional or statewide groups and networks, facilitating community conversations, giving presentations, sharing data to show the impact that they're having on their community. One other question we asked was like, why do you want to be part of the CHW sustainability leadership team? That was important for us to know their why, but I think also a good reflection for them. And an opportunity for them to share some of their like lived experience and the different pieces like that Mengshi went over that really captures the role of a CHW. We also know that in general, overall, it's really, really important that CHWs have support from their organizations as well as their supervisors. So alongside the application, we had the supervisors provide, or organizations provide a letter of support. I was one of the reviewers of the applications and the letters, and I think this was one of the most valuable pieces because like, not only did they say, yep, we support the time, we support the travel, but it was really an opportunity for supervisors to like show a whole other depth of saying like, I've seen the CHW do this work in the community and they've been involved with this sort of data collection. So to give like a whole nother level of support that it was just like a really good lens to see through and added to the application process. And then I think that pretty much covers like what we walked through. I guess the only other thing I would add is we did have 2 CHWs and 1 other person from our team reviewing applications. So it was good to have CHWs be a part of that process as well. So. And I think I'm passing to Leslie. Is that correct? All right.
That's right. It's me again. Hey, all, me again. Okay. Awesome. And thank you so much, Jessica and the Wisconsin team, for sharing that example. So once you have a team, now what? Well, the work doesn't start or stop at the summit. So we have a few summit-specific offerings and have also incorporated summit readiness in Envision's existing offerings. We also will be adding resources to the website and My Envision. So a lot of the resources that will be used in the summit or a good prep for the summit, those are things that we're going to be populating leading up to the summit. And I did want to name that much of the content and the approach of the summit comes from Envision's sustainability-focused community of transformation, where, for those that don't know, that's where participating teams are working in a learning collaborative to identify opportunities for advancing and sustaining the CHW workforce. So within COT, a number of CCR recipients have already been doing some of the pre-work. And then we wanted to find ways to ensure that that pre-work is showing up across CCR. So leading up to the summit, we also have TA and office hours that have been really focused on the 4 sustainability topics that we're emphasizing at the summit. That includes what we reviewed before: CHW leadership and ally support, sustainable funding approaches, using evaluation to support CHW workforce sustainability and scalability, and aligning local and national efforts. And then in addition to that, we've also been embedding summit readiness in existing communities of practice, and we designed 3 summit-specific communities of practice for people who are not participating in the community of transformation or who haven't had that opportunity to connect in that way. And so these spaces will cover sustainability-focused content to prepare folks to fully engage at the summit. So with that, I'm going to tip it over to Monique. She's going to describe the communities of practice.
Hello, all. I am Monique Allen, and I'm a community health worker, and I am the community of practice lead with Envision. A little bit of history: I have worked in the community and also worked with the deaf and hard of hearing population for about 22 years, and the last 4 with the official CHW title. And I'm excited to be with you all today. So we will start with what is a community of practice. So it's a unique learning experience where a group of people who share a common interest or concern on a specific topic come together to fulfill both individual and group goals, often focused on sharing best practices and creating new knowledge to advance both the individual and collective work, a space to build community commitment and to collective reflection and actions, both within and outside of our roles as CHWs and CHW allies. And also just remembering that in the COP space, we are all experts. Next slide, please. As Leslie mentioned, we are embedding summit readiness in our existing communities of practice. So we have tribal and Spanish. We are also launching a CHW affinity COP next week, which is very exciting. Envision is introducing 3 summit-specific communities to practice: CHW allyship, Medicare financial sustainability strategy, and CHW integration into health departments. The summit COPs are designed space for summit attendees to connect with and learn from each other, build deep connections before, during, and after the summit, and to be introduced to summit resources. Next slide, please. Sustainability is addressed in each of the COPs in different ways, depending on the needs of the particular communities. In the tribal space, there have been 2 in-person meetings at the request of the community. During those meetings, the needs for data collection and sharing was identified as pivotal to the success of the CHR work on tribal land. This is the current focus in the tribal space. In the Spanish space, we have focused on ancestral medicine and mental health. We have been discussing the cultural differences in modern medicine and ancestral medicine, and best practices to discuss ancestral medicine and cultural healings with care providers. The CHW Affinity COP launches next week. In this community, the community of practice, we are starting with the topic of leadership and how allies can support CHW leadership. This COP will continue monthly to discuss topics that impact the CHW workforce and sustainability. Next slide, please. So we have 3 specific communities of practice joining the COPs. It's optional and space is limited to no more than 3 members of each summit team in total. 1 person per COP series. As Leslie mentioned, the COPs are for those who that are not participating in the COT. These spaces will cover sustainability-focused content, prepare folks to fully engage in the summit. The first is CHW allyship. Join us in this COP to develop identity as a CHW ally, share best practices, and prepare to support CHW leadership at the summit and beyond. We also have a health department integration COP. Join this COP to identify opportunities for CHW leadership, discover synergies with fellow 2109 recipients, and explore opportunities for securing health department budget line items for CHW employment. The final COP is Medicare Financial Sustainability Strategy COP. Join us in this COP to gain deeper understanding of implementation of Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement, identify opportunities for CHW leadership, and learn from peer-to-peer support. Next slide, please. So this slide shows all of the communities of practice. On the left are the COPs are open to the 2109 grant recipients. Tribal, Spanish, and the CHW Affinity are all currently active currently. If you have not attended the ones that are already ongoing, you're definitely missing out on the great energy and the peer-to-peer support and interactions that occur at those spaces. So please join us if you have not yet. On the right are summit-specific COPs. As with the summit itself, space is limited, and the COPs, the participants are limited. Each summit team of 6 is invited to send up to 3 team members to a COP, 1 team member per COP series. The COP will meet monthly with virtual sessions in February, March, and May, and an in-person gathering time at the summit. So that will be your 4th. To prepare for the summit, COP participants are expected to attend all 3 virtual sessions and spend 1 to 2 hours each month in addition to the 90-minute COP series. We hope that you will share this information that you're learning from the summit with your team so we can have a great impact on our CHWs and their work. So to summarize, each summit team can send 3 team members to the summit-specific COPs with 1 team member per COP series. And team members are expected to attend all parts of that COP series. Registration information for the summit-specific COPs will be coming in your email. And so now, a bit more about that registration information will come from Paige, and I will pass it over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Paige Minking. I am with Envision part-time temporarily, helping to get the summit ready to go. And I'm based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I'm excited to be sharing with y'all a little bit about how you're going to register for the actual summit. So registration will go live next Wednesday, so a week from yesterday, on January 31st. And the registration will be open for 2 weeks, So make sure you are ready to go and you have your team set and you are ready to hit the button within those 2 weeks to get everybody registered. You will get that registration information in an email from the CDC. That email is up on the screen, and it will go to your project PIs and program directors. So make sure that your PIs and program directors know who to send that registration information to and that they are ready to distribute that to the appropriate folks on your team. We're asking each person to register individually so that we get as accurate of information as possible. But we want you to know that that registration will be capped. Like, we have it built into the registration system that only 6 folks from each 2109 will be able to register. So if a 7th person from your project tries to register, it will give them an error message. And obviously, of course, we will be available to help y'all get that sorted out and fix that situation should it arise. But please try to have your 6 folks identified and make that really clear on your end before going in to register. And just a quick reminder that you can invite sub-recipients as part of that 6-member team. So a note about the actual summit dates. So the summit does begin in the morning on April 16th. That's a Tuesday. And unless you try to leave the airport at 3 in the morning or something wild, you will likely not be able to get to Spokane in time to attend the conference that morning. So plan to travel the day before on that Monday, April 15th. And then we will be done midday on Thursday, the 18th, around 1:30. And you should be able then to leave town that afternoon and get home. So you can plan on arriving on the 15th and leaving on the 18th if you're able to find a good flight home that afternoon. The link to book your hotel will be coming to you after registration in order to book through our block of hotels. So please wait to book your hotel until you get that registration link or that registration confirmation email and the link through that email. And a note as you plan for your travel requests and budget and everything, we will be providing at least 1 meal every day, if not 2 meals plus snacks. We're trying our best to feed you at the summit, but dinner will not be provided any of those days. So plan for that. And now I am going to share my screen and show y'all what our registration site is going to look like. Okay, so here is our registration screen. You'll see we have our lovely quilt logo up here that Leslie told us about. And we are working on making sure everything is in English and Spanish. This will change slightly by the time you see it next Wednesday. We're still drafting through it, but wanted to show you what it'll look like. So, of course, we want simple information, name, your email address, your actual address, right? This is where you will be able to receive mail. You can put your home or your work address there. And then what I want to make sure you see here is this is where you put your organizational affiliation. So I'm Envision staff, I would put that and I would go through and put that in, right? But if you are applying or if you are registering on behalf of a 2109 program, when you click that, you're going to get a little box that pops up and has your options for the different CCR programs. So you'll want to click a program here, whichever one you are in or you're registering with. Put your job title. We're breaking out this accommodations box here, so that'll change a little bit by the time you see it. But we'd like to know if you have any food accommodations you need, language accommodations, physical accommodations, whatever we can do to support you to have the most accessible and healthy summit you can have, right? And then we want to know if you're a CHW or not. You'll click then. I haven't submitted everything here, so I can't, but you'll hit next. And this is all we're asking for you. It'll just show you a summary screen, and we want you just to make sure that everything in there is right, especially your email, and that'll be it. And then you'll be registered. You'll get that confirmation email, and you'll be able to book your hotel. That confirmation email will also have a link to our summit website where you can access all of your pre-summit resources. The hotel link will be on there too if you lose that email. But lots of good stuff on that website that will be going live next week as well. So that's what we got for registration. If you have any questions before, during, after that process, as always, we want to send you to our hello@envisionequity.org email address, and we'll be able to help get any technical issues or questions sorted. And with that, I think it's back to Yasmin.
Thanks, Paige. So we are now going to open up the floor for any questions. So either you can put your questions in the chat and I will call them out, or you can raise your hand and we can have you come off mute. I do want to make a quick note that if you have questions that are specific to the Community of Transformation or COT that you're a part of, we'd love to save those for a later time. Leslie and Essie will be meeting with COT teams separately on a one-to-one basis to talk about those specific questions. So either put those in the chat or save them for when you meet with Leslie and Essie, just to allow people to ask questions that aren't a part of the COT. So it looks like we already have a hand up. Brittany?
Hi, this is Heidi. I don't know if I'm showing up as Brittany, but Brittany's on my team. So we were texting about a question with each other. I don't know if it was her or another Brittany, but I do have a question, so I'll ask. I'm from Ohio. I'm with the Ohio Department of Health project, and I just have actually a logistical question about our posters. Will we email you the digital file and then you all will print those for us, or will we need to travel with those or ship those? Have you guys decided any of that yet? I'm just thinking about how we'll get a giant poster from Ohio to Washington.
I love that question. We did an info session last night and someone asked that same question, I believe. And I think that that is something we still need to work out. So I'm like looking to I love questions where it helps us figure out what we need to do. So thank you. And Paige, do you think that we'd be able to have things shipped to the space? Yes.
Yes, so I think we'll have an option to ship, and we will make sure to give folks information on how to get that to the hotel. We will likely not be able to print things for everybody. So start thinking about how you will either ship it or get it. We'll find out if there are places you can print there on site.
Right. Yeah.
But this isn't the scale of a summit where we'll be able to have like one of those really great services like many of the like big scientific conferences do.
Yes.
So a little
That's
more
exactly
DIY.
right. And a few notes related to that too. I see in the chat there was a suggestion of, you can do it on fabric. That is true. You can also go really low, like it doesn't have to be fancy. So you also could print, I've seen it done where people print slides, like create things on PowerPoint and print those and then tape them to poster board. And that is also reasonable. It can be, if you have funds available to ship something, that's great. If you don't, then you can bring a folder of pieces of paper and tape them to a poster board.
Thanks. Just to reiterate, very specific instructions around where to ship those would be awesome. So thanks, guys.
We will definitely do that.
We're very excited.
Yay, we are too. All right, thank you.
All right, Johanna, you have your hand up.
Yes, I think there was somebody else before me, but don't see you no more. Question in terms of hotel reservation. Did Envision have an agreement with the hotel or anything in terms of the number of hotels on hold to give us time for reservation? I'm just thinking about pre-backup hotels, because I know I was looking at some hotels already submitting the request for travel authorization, and I know around that area there's already hotels with very minimal amount of rooms available. So I don't know if there's something else happening in that area, but I did notice some hotels had like 1 or 5 rooms available. So just wanted to confirm whether you guys had an agreement with the hotel to say, hey, we have this summit and we would like to have this many rooms on hold.
Paige, do you have a answer to that?
We should be able to accommodate folks within our block of hotels. If not, if we, for whatever reason, hit our block of hotels, then we will certainly help figure out where close by people can and send them in that direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
There's lots of hotels close by. We're right across from the convention center. So it's in an area where there are lots of places for people to stay. So we'll make sure we get it all sorted for folks.
Okay, I think it would be helpful. Like I was looking at some websites and I only found one very, very close to it. The other ones like were 8 to 10 minutes walking distance. It's not much, but so I think if you have any list of hotels potentially close by distance that can share, I think that will be super helpful.
Paige, do we know how many rooms we have in our block?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can look it up and hopefully have it by the time we finish.
Okay, thank you.
I also just wanted to remind people, I know Paige, you just said this, but when you register, you'll get the link to the discounted rate for the hotel. So hold off on booking any hotels until you register, just to make sure that you're in the block of rooms and that you're getting the discounted rate. And so, yes, Sabrina, I hope that answers your question about sharing the block of rooms. So when you register, you will get the link to register for the hotel via our block of rooms. Madeline, do you want to come off mute?
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question about the registration timeframe. So the 31st it opens and it's open for 2 weeks. I'm just worried about developing applications for all of our sub-recipients and having everyone have time to like apply for us to select who's coming and then register within that time frame. So is there any like flexibility with that registration date?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe Paige or Leslie, could I field that to one of you?
Yeah, I can take that. So at this time, we are keeping it pretty firm to that 2 weeks. But part of that is giving us an opportunity to sort of take a temperature. And I think if we take a pulse and need to revisit, but we would really like to have an idea of it within that 2 weeks. That gives us a good, clear picture of how to assign workshop blocks, how to assign poster sessions, that type of thing. So that's part of the reason for that short turnaround. But we do hear you, and we can, we can definitely elevate that concern to the full planning committee.
Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah.
James, do you want to come off mute?
Sure, thank you. I just had a question. I wasn't clear on the commitment that we're asking of people for those affinity groups before and after the summit, and wondering, is there a written document that you all have and can send out?
Yeah, great question, James. We will be sending that out with further description. But I can definitely recap to say that how that is looking is there are for the communities of practice that are summit specific. So we have 3 summit specific communities of practice. For those, there are 2 times that folks meet before the summit. So once per month, because those start in February, so it'd be February and March. Then there will be an in-person space at the summit, and then another virtual connection after the summit. at least one more virtual connection. So that's for the summit specific ones. For the others that are communities of practice that have been existing, we can also include, registration information for that. So that's been ongoing. And those are also on a monthly schedule, I think, although every once in a while things become every other month. I'm going to tip to Monique to speak to that.
Yes, no problem. Yes, the CHW affinity, which is so just to explain it so it's clear, it does start in January, which is the first session will be the 29th, but that will continue. So that one you can join, and that one will be monthly. Now the tribal in Spanish is every other month. So this month we had tribal and CHW affinity, and then next month we will have Spanish and CHW affinity. So that's how the regular, the ongoing COPs go. So that is that cadence. And if anyone needs that information or has not received alerts for those COPs, I can definitely drop my email in the chat and then make sure you all get that information.
Right. And you can include that, the ongoing ones and the ones specific to the summit, in like a document. I know when I looked at them myself, I wasn't, maybe I didn't read it closely enough, but I wasn't thinking, oh, this is something I need to push out to everybody. And so I might have missed the boat on some of those other affinity groups.
Thanks, James. So you can get connected with Monique to make sure that you get your team plugged into those COPs. And Monique, while you're talking about COPs, could you answer Sarah's question in the chat about clarifying when people can join the Health Department Integration COP and when that registration will be available? And is it going to start after the registration for the summit?
I can field that. So the summit specific COPs, those are starting in February. The registration for those will be made available after summit registration. So it should be fairly in line with that same time frame of summit registration. And the registration link for the for those summit specific COPs, I think those will also be coming to PIs and program directors, correct? I apologize, y'all. We do have a designated staff member for this particular piece who unfortunately is sick today. So we are filling in to field questions to the best of our ability.
Leslie,
So
that's right. That the email with the summit COP, summit specific communities of practice will be coming to the PI and PD as well.
Thank you. Thanks,
And
Sherry.
disseminated to the teams, just like registration.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We also have a question in the chat about summit registration. What should our subrecipients choose as their organizational affiliation when registering?
So they should choose the umbrella 2109 project. So all 6 folks on your team need to choose the same 2109.
Thank you, Paige. More questions. I'm looking through the chat to make sure I didn't miss any questions. And yes, Sabrina, so the link to registration will be emailed to the PIs and program directors to pass it forward. So look out for it coming from their email address. And Monique has dropped the link in the chat for the CHW Affinity COP, which again will start on January 29th.
And also lifting up that Wisconsin said they are happy to share their templates. Thank you, Wisconsin team. I think way back in the chat, there was actually a question too about how the poster session assignments will be made and when folks will know that. So based on registration, we will then go through and make those assignments and get that back to you. So you should know, you'll know your assignment before you get to the summit.
Yeah, and to clarify, so it'll be everybody divided into thirds. We'll have 3 sessions. And the 2 of them are on the first day. The third one is on the second day. But there's nothing competing. So you'll be at all of the poster sessions regardless.
Thanks, Paige. Do we have more questions that we can answer in the room?
Yeah, and I just want to appreciate the questions. Again, I'll reiterate that, the questions really help us to be sure that, we're getting to the things that maybe we didn't think about before. So we really appreciate being in relationship with all of you in the fast and furious planning of this summit. So thank you for your amazing questions and for your contributions.
James?
Yeah, with that, I'll ask another question. If there's an opportunity, like a slot available or 1 or 2 slots available, to bring extra people. So say some didn't, don't bring 6. Is that a possibility, and when would we know that? Because I could think of 1 or 2 others, especially in the ally section, that might be good. So, when is that going to happen?
I can give that one an
thanks.
answer. That is a question we are getting over and over and over again, and that's amazing. We wish that we had capacity for several thousand people to come, and we would have an even bigger CHW sustainability party and move this work forward. Let me say a little bit about the registration and the tight timeline. We want to know that that when we're asking teams to register all 6 within 2 weeks, that will tell us how much wiggle room we have. So for example, if some teams aren't able to come, which at this point we haven't heard that any teams aren't coming for sure, then we would have some extra spots that we might be able to fill up or open up in some way. So the best we can say is that perhaps there may be 1 more spot per team, but even that is likely a stretch. That we really are on full capacity, and we're excited about that. I do also want to say that we will be streaming the plenaries, and that also you can bring people in at home yourselves as well by when you're having team time arranged for your own personal Zoom to bring in more team members to have that conversation about what you're learning and how you want to implement that at home. And that, as the 6 that are at the summit, it's your job to amplify and elevate what you learned and take that home and keep it moving. The summit is one point in time. We actually started the Sustainability Week work as we were writing for CCR, and we hope you were as well, that we know that we don't want to be that grant that employed thousands of CHWs around the country and we didn't make forward movement. This summit is a pinnacle. It's all hands on deck, get our minds wrapped around this, and also it keeps going, and it started before. So as teams, do your best to bring in more, and we'll do our best to get a really good handle on how many people are for sure coming, so that if there is any extra spots, we don't want to leave them unused, and we will get those back out to you in as quick of a time frame as we can. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Sherry. And on the same topic, yeah, at yesterday's information session and other conversations, people were also asking, what if we have less than 6 people that we want to bring? And so I just want to kind of elevate that quickly. So we understand that there are often structural barriers to bringing 6 people to travel for a conference like this, and totally respect and understand that. We've all been there. And so if that's the case, we're happy to work with you, or, do what you can. We're happy you're coming at all to this event that we're so proud of. But if it is a matter of you have the funding in place and you can do it, it's just about taking that extra time to think it through and do the justifications and the applications. I just want to elevate that allyship piece of, understanding how important an event like this is for CHWs who don't often get to travel for this type of event. And so where we can step in and support that, I think is really powerful. So I just wanted to elevate that before I had Kathy come off mute and ask her question.
Okay, so my question is for the community of transformation teams. You had said you were going to meet with our teams and do some thinking about who ought to be there and some of the things about the training. When's that going to happen, given the fact that the registration is going live in 2 weeks?
I mean, tomorrow. No, sorry, Kathy. It's a great question because we are trying to figure that one out too. And I think that a doodle poll is coming out maybe today, maybe tomorrow, from COT. So you're gonna get a doodle poll. And Essie and I have held a lot of time on our calendars to be able to meet with as many people as possible before the end of that registration time. So that's where we're at right now. And it should come out. I'm looking to Essie to see when we'll probably get that out, hopefully this week. We'll see how we do.
I'm following up to see when.
Yeah. And if you already know a time that y'all are available, I will say this for COT teams, and but if you already have a time available that works for you, go ahead and put it in AMP. And or email us.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy. We'll make sure everybody gets the support that they need and the information that they need to register. Nelida, do you want to come off of mute? I see a hand raised. Do you want to come off mute and ask your question, Nelida? All right. We can circle back, just come off mute if you have a question. Robert, do you want to go next? Oh, okay. We'll grab your question from the chat in a moment, Nelida, after Robert asks his question.
Thank you, Yasmin. My question is regarding the communities of practice that are going to be incorporated into the summit. If recipients are constrained by their organizational policy on the number of people that can travel to the summit, so they're sending less than 6, maybe less than half, maybe 2 or 1, but they want people who wouldn't be able to travel to participate in those 3 upcoming communities of practice. Is there a possibility for that?
Yeah, great question, Robert. We are prioritizing participation in those communities of practice for those that are going to the summit, so that, that limited space could really be used to prepare and have a strong readiness for the work that's going to happen at the summit. That said, I think if we were at a place where we didn't have those spaces filled, though I don't imagine that happening, I could imagine us making some exception around that. But I think that it really is important that the spaces for those summit specific COPs are prioritized for those that are going to dig into the work together in person at the summit. I appreciate the question though. And what is true is those types of questions are like heartache for us because we want to say yes to everyone and we want to be able to have capacity for every single person, right? All the capacity questions are so challenging. And we know that in order to really hold the space and do it justice, that's why those limitations are there.
So we have 1 more minute left of this Q&A. I see a couple unanswered questions in the chat about COPs. Maybe we could answer those super quick before we move on. So one is, if a CHW misses the first COP group, what happens? Leslie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you're referring to the are you referring to the COP that is CHW affinity space? Or a different community of practice?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So for the COP affinity space, it doesn't have that same kind of restricted flow where it's like, sign up for these three or sign up for this, delineated series. It's ongoing. So if someone misses one, it's all good, right? Then they can come to the next one. I mean, communities of practice are meant to be commitments because you're building a practice with others. But if people come in at the second one or the third one, that's really okay. They'll come in, they'll start where they're starting, and they'll be welcomed in and brought into the practice.
Great, thanks, Leslie. And then also for registrations, correct me if I'm wrong, but COP registration will be sent via email very soon, and then you'll have all the information and links to register.
That's correct.
Great.
I want to acknowledge that very last one because I think that was a confusion last night too. The sustainability COP is not a requirement for summit attendees. It's an offering for summit attendees to be able to get up to speed or deepen understanding and practice to prepare for the summit, but is not a requirement that if you are going to the summit that you have participated in a sustainability COP. Thanks for that question.
Okay, so we are just about out of time. Yes,
Can
Sherry.
I respond to one other question in the chat quick?
Sure.
Okay, I saw Caitlin and perhaps another person had mentioned the 2-week registration open window, not giving them enough time to do a thoughtful process to work through which community health workers they want to invite. In that case, if that is the reason you're wanting to do that, go ahead and email Paige and myself and Leslie, and any one of the three of us, and we'll work that through with you. Register the people that you know for sure are going, and then let us know, because we don't want to get in the way of a thoughtful process of helping determine CHW leadership and self-informed by CHWs in doing that. I also just wanted to underscore that in elevating the Wisconsin process in doing this, we were giving you some things to consider, and it's not a requirement you do it that way. This is a helpful way to frame it and think about it, and some of the things that they gave in doing that, I think it worked out really well for them. So if you have the bandwidth to do that, I feel like that was a very good process that they undertook, and so we want to support that. So reach out to summit leadership, and we will work that through with you.
Thanks so much, Sherry. And for any questions we weren't able to get to today, we have taken note of the chat, and we will be using them to create a FAQ page for the website to make sure that we're able to answer all of your questions. You can also use the hello@ email that we shared earlier in the chat to get in touch and get any clarification or support that you need. So before we wrap up and let you go enjoy the rest of your Thursday, we wanted to let you know that our next webinar will be on February 22nd. You can register now. The link will be in the chat in a moment. It's at 12:30 Central Time. The other time zones are listed here for you. And it is Sustaining and Training CHW Work in Addressing Chronic Disease as Underlying Risk Factors. So we'll see you there for that. So in a moment, you're going to get a poll. We would love your feedback about what we did well or what we could do better from today. Materials will be sent out in a follow-up email. And as always, you can check and plug in via AMP, the Envision website, or our YouTube page. Thank you again for joining us today, for all of your great questions. Please let us know how we can support you. Essie, you can go ahead and launch the poll now, please. Thank you so much. And we are looking forward to seeing you all at the summit. So we're going to give a few minutes for the poll, and then we'll pop everyone into the waiting room and then say our goodbyes for now, and then see you very soon.